Welcome back to the Fear
and Beer podcast,
where we discuss all things Halloween Horror Nights, horror movies,
and just a little bit of beer.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Seamus.
Like scary movies.
Uh-huh.
Here's Johnny.
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Did you miss me?
Aren't you drinking? I never drink. Why?
Before we get into tonight's episode, we want to remind all of those listening on Apple Podcasts to drop us a 5-star review. It helps us grow as a podcast and build our audience. If you're listening on Spotify or any other platform, follow us, and don't forget to share with friends and family who might have a little bit of the strange in them as well.
And while you're on those socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, be sure to find us, Fear and Beer Pod. Give us a like, share, and you can always message us. We love to interact with all you guys. Announcements. We finally got it.
It happened. We finally got everything we already knew was going to happen. But hey, you know what? It's still exciting, right?
It's official now. So now we do not have to play the speculation game. We can officially say that these are the houses, these are the scare zones, these are the shows. We're still waiting on food and beverage to drop, but I'm sure that's not too far behind. So obviously, we have a lot to discuss this week. We are just going to be giving a broad announcement of the houses, kind of talk about them a little bit each individually. Same with the scare zones. Give our thoughts on these quickly because these are topics we are going to talk again about next week. Listen along because at the end of this episode, we are going to announce our winner for the little raffle giveaway review thing that we had going on. So we'll announce the winners there. And we will also be revealing to you our schedule for next week. Because if you've been paying attention to us, we are going to be going full insanity mode. This was my idea, and I have to live with it, editing all these episodes. But we are dropping an episode a day starting next Friday until that Friday of Horror Nights. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you will have something from us. And that Friday episode will be our 100th episode. So we just crammed like 2 months worth of episodes in a week. So
100 episodes. That's pretty insane to think about it. I mean, that's pretty wild. I mean, I thought like our 2-year episode came and went, but like when you think about it and just number of recordings, that means we've recorded over 100 weeks.
Yeah,
almost.
Yep.
Well, almost. I guess if we're doing like all these in one in one week, I guess this doesn't really count. But it's still pretty wild to think about because we did just kind of start this whole thing, and feels like we just started it yesterday. But I guess technically we're going into 3 events. If it wasn't for COVID, we'd be going to our 3rd event as as a podcast, right? Technically,
yeah, yep,
or pretty close.
It's wild. Who knew that this is what we would? This is exactly how far we'd get. We thought it would take us a couple episodes and we'd be kind of out of stuff to talk about. But no, well, we are still here chit chatting.
Yeah, pretty insane.
Let's get into beers because I actually did go out and purchase beers with certain episodes in mind. So I did line up a couple of these beers. And since we're recording 3 episodes tonight, I'll be feeling it after. But
yeah, don't ruin the magic.
So for the beer for this episode, I picked up, it is from, what brewery is this? Either way, it is called Don't Poke the Bear. And I figured that was kind of fitting for all the people poking at the Halloween Horror Nights bear and waiting for announcements. And they finally got what they wanted. Halloween Horror Nights is fully announced, so we poked the bear until we got what we wanted. This is a double blonde ale with honey. It is an 8% alcohol. And let's see what I can find else on the beer list. Of course, the internet does not want to work. Don't poke the bear. No, that's not the same beer that I'm having. Nope. All right. Well, there's like a bunch of Don't Poke the Bear, so I don't really have time to find which one it is, but it is Fresh Florida, made with Florida honey, this is Sailfish Brewing from Fort Pierce, Florida. I was going to say they should put their actual brewer company name a little bit easier to find, but that's what I'm working with tonight. So we'll see how this fits. It looks good. Cool can art. I'm always down to try some blonde ale, especially the honey makes it nice and sweet. So I'm excited for this.
Well, it helps that, we're Bruins fans, so I guess it kind of matches that a little bit too. That has nothing to do with Halloween Horror Nights, but I am not partaking in beer, but we're going to pretend that I am.
We'll say you are.
Stuff you call water, but we'll pretend that I am currently drinking the same with you. So you let the people know how you. Yeah, drink it for both of us. Unfortunately, we had to record remote for some of these episodes. So for a few of them that you're hearing this week or coming up this week, we will be remote for some of them. So I apologize in advance for that because that is my fault. But
no, I mean, it lets us out it a lot quicker, and it allows us to get more content done. And if you want those 7 days, 7 episodes, this is what you're going to have to work with sometimes.
Yeah, so we're going to have to bear with the idiot dog in the background because she won't shut up. And I apologize for that as well. I'm going to kick her when she comes over here, so just be prepared for that. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that to an animal. But I'll do it in my head.
Don't poke the bear, Seamus. Don't poke the bear.
Yeah, she's a wonderful dog. Love her very much. So enjoy that beer.
This episode, it's good. It's got a kick on it. That double really kicks it up a notch. The honey isn't as sweet as I thought. I thought it would kind of bring down, the tone of that double, but it really doesn't. You can still get that boozy taste a little bit up front, which is weird from a blonde ale because it's something I would expect from those like farmhouse ales.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I'm just trying to remember. I mean, I recognize the name, but I could just be confusing the Bruins slogan with the beer you're drinking. So that could be why I'm thinking what I'm thinking of, but I feel like I've had that one before.
This one, I looked up Don't Poke the Bear on Untapped, and there was like a handful of companies. So thankfully I found the right one. There is one from Harpoon. Right.
Yeah.
There is a Harpoon one, so that's probably the Bruins one from up north.
Is that one Sailfish?
This is Sailfish.
Yeah, so I have had that one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a local Florida one, so it would make sense that we've probably had it at certain places before. So,
yeah. So let's get into these announcements. We're going to run through the houses first. We're going to talk about ones that were already announced as well. So we're just going to give the house and the quick synopsis that is posted on the Universal website. There was some other like deeper descriptions announced as well through, I think, another podcast, but we're not going to get into those because that seemed a little bit more in depth than some people might want to hear about. I don't know if it necessarily gave some stuff away in certain houses, but I just like these quick synopsises, so it kind of gives us just a little taste of what we're getting.
Yeah, for those who, I'm just gonna say, for those that who may not realize or may not know what we're talking about, they didn't drop anything like in particular. It's just they released all 10 houses, so all of the remaining ones that haven't been talked about or hadn't had a commercial or something created for it, they released everything on their website. So if you go there, you can see all the descriptions and each item or each one that's going to be there. So if you're living under a rock and you weren't aware that they released anything, well, this is what we're talking about.
Time to get out. All right. So first up is The Weeknd After Hours Nightmare. It's music to your fears. Cute. Very cute. You love his music, but can you survive his mind? The Weeknd is about to stalk your squad through this haunted house, a surreal living nightmare from his after hours videos. His nightmare is now yours. So I'm excited for this one. More interested than excited. I think I had that internal debate when we had the Weeknd announcement.
So we discussed this a little bit when they announced the house a few weeks ago, but we can get into like our hype and everything else that on a different episode. But you're right. I think that we're both. I'm probably more excited in the sense that you're not excited necessarily, but both agree, or I at least agree with you that it's definitely interesting, and it's something that I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with for it, or what they've come up with for it. I like the image that they use. I think that's really cool. Kind of gives that 80s sci-fi vibe plus horror movie vibe. So I'm excited.
I keep thinking that little like lizard guy is like a turkey in the image, but it's like a lizard man creature.
You're right. If you kind of just quickly glance at it, it does kind of look like an evil turkey, a la Thanksgiving.
Never forget. All right. Moving along, we have Halloween. His beginning is your end. Silent, merciless, relentless. There's nobody like Michael Myers, and if your Scream Squad is ready, this year you can gather together and face the terror of Halloween from the very beginning. Again, this one and the next one are the next four are ones that we have already discussed because these have been announced previously. But Halloween 1978, a reimagining of that house that took place at 24. It's going to extend on certain scenes. It's going to show us some new stuff. It's going to show us some old stuff. But at the end of the day, it's classic Michael Myers stalking through Haddonfield on his first film encounter.
Yeah, it's definitely not one for people that, well, I don't say it's not one, but I don't think it's going to be a whole lot different than what people have already seen if you've experienced these houses or the Halloween houses before in the past. We did kind of talk about it. We've talked about it in the past, and we've talked about it on a few episodes that obviously they're going to do their own thing, but I still think it's going to be relatively by the numbers Halloween 78 or 79, whatever year it was. And it's going to be like living or reliving the movie itself.
Yeah, I think so too. So next up, the horrors of Blumhouse. Twice the screams, twice the terror. So get ready for a blood-curdling new double feature of Blumhouse horror as your Scream Squad faces a ruthless serial killer in Freaky and an evil kidnapper in the relentlessly terrifying The Black Phone. So we just discussed The Black Phone recently. We did a killer review on that. We had done Freaky previously. So these are two movies that I'm interested to see how they mash up together, because I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play out. I know they're probably going to be two distinctly different houses within one, but time will tell on that one. Blumhouse is kind of 50-50 right now for their track record, with their first house being pretty well off and the second one falling a little short. So we'll see if they can redeem themselves a little bit on this go around.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to add to this one. I mean, other than the fact that I liked both movies. I liked one better than the other, but I think I've kind of relatively already given my feelings towards it, in the sense that it's going to really have to wait until I experience it to really give a final opinion or a final verdict. I mean, I can be excited for it, but at the same time, I'm still a little wary as to how it's going to work together.
Mm-hmm. Next up is Universal Monsters Legends Collide. It's the Wolfman versus Dracula versus the Mummy. If you thought one Universal monster was scary, how about 3? Summon your Scream Squad, because you're about to get caught between the Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy together for the first time. Again, another house that we have already previously discussed on one of our announcement episodes, but it is a fun original story. They went into detail at Spooky Empire about that, and we discussed that on our Spooky episode. But it's its own idea. It's a part 1, part 2 deal with the West Coast. I'm going to be very interested to see how this plans out, because the Universal Monster houses seem to, year after year, be a staple and be a pretty well done house. It's generally received well by all. So we'll see if they can kind of keep that streak alive.
Yep. Again, Universal movies, Universal Monster House. I mean, I've said my piece on this. I've given my opinion after hearing kind of what the story is going to be about. I'm a little less wary about it, but still, everybody knows kind of how I feel about Universal Monsters. No shade. If you enjoy them, great. I'm just not as wild about it as everyone else is. So I'm going to give this one a chance, and we'll see. Maybe it'll be one that'll surprise me. I'll go through it a bunch of times, and maybe, who knows? Maybe I'll do it once and never do it again. But I don't know. We'll find out when it opens on September 2nd.
All right, so now we get into the fun ones. These are all ones that were not announced officially. So we're finally getting taglines, titles, and a little bit of a synopsis on these. So it's nice, because up to this point we were just kind of spitballing random ideas. But so first up is Spirits of the Coven. They're bewitchingly terrifying. A coven of beautiful flapper witches will lure you into their 1920s speakeasy, reveal their haggish true form, and turn your Scream Squad into a witch's brew. They'll be cackling, you'll be screaming. So I'm excited for this one. This is kind of, we kind of talked about this, the whole spirits part of it, almost acting like a wink and a nod towards that speakeasy style. we didn't say flapper style, but we mentioned speakeasy could have been an option for this house. So I'm excited. It's different. This isn't, your classic Salem witches. It's not your classic, green witch. This is like a flapper witch. It's something that is distinctly on its own.
I mean, it's definitely not something that you would first think about when they say, a witch house or one that's delving into witchcraft. I'm interested. I think we didn't say specifically 1920s, the roaring 20s, the flapper being a very specific look and specific thing from that time period. We didn't really specifically state anything like that. I do recall, at least I think I did, mention when we did our was it the house draft we did with the other podcasts or whatever, we talked about things, and I did mention a ship one, but it was or something based in the 20s. So I guess I'm kind of right a little bit, but
we'll count it.
I apologize for the noise in the background. My dogs suck. Sorry, everybody.
No, I'm excited for that house. So let's go to now bugs eaten alive. So these bugs are out to exterminate you. While touring a 1950s home of the future, you'll be surrounded by the slime of bugs everywhere as hordes of many-legged terrors descend upon you and your scream squad. You'll be dropping like flies. Scream Squad, they just love throwing this stupid Scream Squad slogan into these little bios of these houses. But for this one, I know you're not going to be excited about this one, but I think this will be fun.
I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry like a little baby. It's well known in the Hughes family that I do not like bugs. It was funny when I first decided to move to Florida. Everybody said the same thing. Like, you really gonna move to Florida? The bugs down there are like the size of like melons, right? Like, they're huge. Like they're gigantic. And I said, yeah, I know. And I've learned to like them, but this one's gonna be tough. I'm hoping it's tame enough where I'll want to do it again. But my feeling is I'm gonna be dragged into it once, and I'm never gonna go into it again.
I do love
first time. Yeah.
I love the 50s aspect of it. I think that still gives us that potential of having it be that like funny schlocky house.
Oh, the theme will be great, and even if it's like a funny haha kind of like lighten the mood type house where it's gonna be icky and gross, but it's also gonna not be like super hardcore. It's still gonna be terrifying because I hate bugs. So if giant, huge truck-sized bugs are not okay with me. So we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping that it's not that bad, but I can't imagine I'm going to have a panic attack or not.
I think this one is going to be very much the touchy-feely house. I think you're going to get a lot of the air blows in the faces. I think you're going to get a lot of the dangly, like clear fishing line that's like feeling like you're walking through webbing. I think that this house is going to be the
100%,
like the all-out senses house.
Let me just put it out there that I have avoided the Bugs Life show at Disney World since I was a child. I did it once as a child and I never did it again. That just shows you how nervous I am about this house.
All right. Next up is Fiesta De Chupacabras. So listen to your abuela and beware the chupacabras. Visit a Latin American village where the legend of the creature chupacabra is celebrated with a colorful fiesta, and the streets are lined with the crimson blood of tourists like you and your amigos. I'm in on this house. I think the little taglines, the story aspect of it, I think it ties it all together very nicely. I know we mentioned last time having that like party aspect. Almost a celebration of sorts, and that seems like where it's leading to. It seems like we're being led to slaughter almost as a sacrificial aspect to the chupacabra. So I'm curious to see this. I'm hoping for like a big puppet chupacabra like they had for American Werewolf in London, like some big animatronic skin-like texture moving around, snarling, gross smells. That's what I hope at least one of these scenes will be for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely getting like Yeti vibes. It's gonna be big monster costumes, like huge, like well done scare actors and that sort of thing. It's gonna be pretty heavy duty when it comes to that. So I'm excited about this too. I'm excited about all of them, but haven't really ranked them yet as far as hype's concerned for me yet. I haven't really thought about that yet. This one could be near the top just because I like the story of it. I like the idea of going into these regional or cultural legends like this, like Yeti and Chupacabra and others. We kind of did say that a little bit when we first saw the first spec map, that we think that this is kind of where they're going with these, but I am excited to see what this one turns out to be.
Next up is Hellblock Horror. As these monsters escape their prison, there's no escape for you. Enter a prison whose savage inmates are monstrous creatures. If they break free from their cells, it's a death sentence for everyone. So all I immediately think of is Cabin in the Woods. That's what I think of.
Yep. And this is
a jail cell of aliens, monsters, creatures, and we're just kind of walking through the pathways.
Yeah, I think this one could be anything, and I think that we've more or less agree that this is where oh my god,
the Evil Dead Rises.
Evil Dead. I am sorry, I'm getting old. I forget things now. I'm losing my mind. This is what Evil Dead Rises as was supposed to be. So they threw this together probably last minute. So this really could be anything. I think it's very vague. Obviously, it's taking place in a prison, but outside of that, it could be anything. So I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about this one.
Yeah, I'm interested, knowing that this one, or not knowing, but highly insinuated that this is the one that kind of changed last minute. I'm very curious. I think that the style of this house, where it's a prison with various monsters, opens the door for them to kind of go into their back catalog of what they may have already had in place from previous years to just take random creatures. I mean, are we going to get a Yeti in one of these cell blocks? Are we going to get anything from the Case Files house last year in the cell blocks? It's such a, I don't want to say vague, but it opens the door for so many possibilities. Are we going to get any of the aliens from like Invasion? Any Treeks and Foons in there? I view it as like an Arkham Asylum with all the Batman villains. This is like the prison of HHN past, and that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. I mean, I can imagine that if they had to throw it together, that would make sense.
Next up, Dead Man's Pier, Winter's Wake. There we go. Said it on the very first spec map episode.
Early contender for best house of the event. I'm going to say that now.
This is creeping up there for me, that's for sure. So you're dead in the water. In a New England fishing village, undead fishermen emerge from the waves to seek their revenge. You and your Scream Squad, there it is again, may have escaped their hooks in the scare zone. Now they'll reel you in and drag you under. So, I mean, we've talked about the potential of this house since, that first spec map came out when it was Seaside Village. I said, this has to be Dead Man's Wharf or the Vikings, but I was always leaning towards Dead Man's Wharf. And man, I'm so glad to finally, it's just cool that now is the time that I've been, I've only been going since 25. So it's really coming full circle at this point where I've been going long enough to start seeing some of my favorite stuff evolutionize and evolve into sequels and houses and stuff like that. It's cool seeing Icons last year, and that's like something I've sort of seen evolve and stuff like that, but this is like a real organic. This was my favorite scare zone then. It was always a contender in my favorite scare zone of all time, and finally seeing it get bumped up to an actual house is just, I can't wait. And the fact that it's, I don't know if it was canon back then that it was took place in New England, but now it is. So that's even like more tugging at my heartstrings.
It's one more callback to where we're from.
All right. And then lastly, the last house is Descendants of Destruction. Deeper, darker, deadlier. So careful not to leave any of your Scream Squad. God damn, they put this in every fucking thing, didn't they? Careful not to leave any of your Scream Squad behind as you descend the subway tunnels of a deserted New York. Lurking in the dark are hungry mutants looking to feast on the last remnants of humanity. Now, interesting concept.
So I wonder if we're getting
Subways, New York. I think originally on the very first spec map there was something called underground creatures. So I can only imagine that this was that house. And I think originally we said, like mining shafts, mole people. So we didn't really, I don't think we necessarily said New York subways, but that's an interesting way to kind of go about that.
Yeah, I think it'll be a cool theme. You'll be able to play a little bit with more of the sensory stuff, the sounds. Like you can do like a subway car potentially whooshing by or whatever, a ghost subway car running by, and you get the wind, you get the noise, but there's no subway car coming. I can totally imagine walking out into a room and it looks like you're walking onto the tracks, and you get that effect of a train coming at you, but that it's not
the light.
It's like a ghost train or something like that. I can totally see that happening. And then I think it's interesting. Hungry underground mutants. It's not wildly unique, but at the same time, it's not something that I've seen done quite a lot. So as long as they don't do generic, like super generic, like just nuclear waste infected people, like if they do something interesting with it, and make it a little bit more unique compared to just standard, mutant people, I think it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. I think overall, the 10 houses we're getting it's awesome. Because I think, really, it's Halloween and Blumhouse, which are the two, movie IPs. Universal Monsters is kind of its own thing. The Weekend House is like its own thing. Nobody can say for sure what it's going to exactly be. But I view it sort of in that original sense where it's like its own story. And then you have the remaining houses as HHN original. So if you're an original fan this year, you're getting spoiled this year.
I was going to say
I think it's strong.
I think this event is the closest you're going to get to a original driven event, in the sense that of the 4 IPs, we've talked about this already kind of in the past with the spec map episodes, there really isn't a major draw. And I don't want to say that like Halloween isn't a draw, but if I'm of the opinion, I think the Weekend is your biggest IP draw, really. I think obviously Halloween's a big deal, it is too. But I think the Weekend is what's going to drive ticket sales, because people are interested to find out what are they going to do with that. People that are fans of his, people that maybe haven't listened to his music very much, or really weren't a fan of his music leading into the event, they're all interested, I think, in that house to see what they did with it. And who knows, they may convert some of those people that aren't fans of his music into fans of his music. Who knows? Anything could happen. But I think of those 4 IPs, that's the biggest draw. And out of the whole, there really, I don't think it doesn't feel like there's any one IP where it's like, damn, like I can't believe they got that. We got to go for that particular house. We got to see that house. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think, potentially, if Evil Dead Rises was supposed to be that house, I could potentially see that being the case, but I'm not entirely sure, even if that actually happened, if that would still, at least for me, it wouldn't feel like that big of a get. Like, Evil Dead Rises, like it's Evil Dead. Like we've seen
a movie that I haven't seen though, like right. a new movie that I don't
show think is Bruce or whatever Campbell. The hell it is. I just feel like there, even if that stuck around, I still don't think this event would have had that really driving force IP that everyone needs to go check out, like the last few years have had. So I really do think this event's going to be driven quite a lot by their original ideas. We're getting 6 original houses, which is a huge deal. One of them being obviously kind of a quick turnaround. So it could just be, like you said, like a greatest hits of their originals throughout the years, which I think might be pretty cool either way. Who knows what that's going to end up being? Like I said, that's the most one that's the one that's the most up in the air. No one knows really what's going to be in that. But out of the other 5 originals, they all sound like they're all going to be contenders for best house of the year. I think you got 5 legitimate houses that could. I just don't think that like last year where, Puppet Theater was really good, but I think it's pretty well agreed upon that the Pumpkin Lord house Rise of the Pumpkin.
Yeah, Wicked Growth.
Wicked Growth was arguably the best house that last year, and I don't think it was as close as everyone else does. But either way, whatever. And then the year before that, Graveyard Games, which was like came out of nowhere and was like by far the best house that year. I don't think there's going to be one out of any of these 5 that necessarily blow away every other house. I think obviously Dead Man's what is it? Dead Man's Wake or
Pier.
Dead Man's Pier, excuse me. I think like maybe for you or I, it might be like by far the best, but I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a consensus. If you see where I'm coming from, I think that there's going to be pockets of people that enjoy each one of these houses and would consider that house the best house of the year. So I'm excited. I'm super pumped because again, as well as you and I both agree that we're huge original house people. Like we would rather see an event full of original houses because we think that they tend to be better houses, better put together.
Yes.
So I think if you're like us, then this is the event for you. Like this is the event to not miss. Like if you weren't planning, if you weren't sure you were going to come to this one because there really wasn't a lot of IPs, I don't think it's one to do that on. I think you have to come to this event. I think this is going to be so much variety in the different houses that I think it's just you're gonna have to be there. I really do think that. So I'm excited.
You don't want to miss this one. So let's jump into scare zones a little bit now because we got the names, we got a little bit of a description on those as well. So again, just going off the website,
we get a pretty big announcement too when it comes to these scare zones. I'm just saying.
I know. So horrors of Halloween. Let's start right there.
Yeah, why don't we start
Lord,
with this one?
The spirit of Halloween has taken over this year's event, summoning hordes of fiendish creatures. Terror has taken root.
I think. Did we call this? I think we called this. I think we called this.
We did. So
hard.
I was going to bring it up at the end.
Else did too,
we can get it. We can get it out now. So I did go back and listen to our way too early predictions episode, which was out on October 22nd. So it was out before the event had even ended. And at the start of the episode, we said that we believed that the Pumpkin Lord would be back. And we even said the words to take over the event. And the event itself would be an overarching Halloween-themed event. Now, I know, I'm sure we're not the only people to say this, but I do want to pat ourselves on the back because we said that way before any speculation had happened. And if you listen to that episode too, I mean, we did vote on a lot of stuff, a lot of Netflix properties, none of which made it, obviously. But we did, towards the end, also both vote very likely that Halloween would be at this event. Now, we were kind of tossing it forth between like a compilation of 78 going into the new stuff. But we did both say it's very likely for Halloween. So we got 2 out of that episode, 2 out of 10 random shot in the darks that we put together back in October. So if you want to listen to that episode just for like shits and giggles to like see how off we were on some things and how pretty accurate we were, it feels nice to kind of get something. We did say, that he'd be an icon, he'd take over the event, he would be back, and that the whole thing would be Halloween themed with, and I think I said specifically like witches, goblins, ghouls, stuff like that. I said all that. So pat on the back.
100%. Yeah. Again, I'll take it. I'll take the win. I don't care what anybody says. I know we're not the only people that were saying this, and it was, you can probably say that, well, it's obvious that, they were going to do something like that, but I don't care. We called it. Super excited about this. I may be more excited about this than I am any of the houses. And I know that's crazy to say, but I fell in love with Pumpkin Lord the moment I saw him on a t-shirt. And I'm talking like when they canceled the event back in 2020, and we didn't really have a whole lot going on except for some merch and a couple houses they threw up for during the day. People to check out during the day. So back then, when I saw that T-shirt that they released with Pumpkin Lord on it, I kind of fell in love with the character right then and there, and have spoken his good graces since, from that point forward through the event last year until now. So the fact that he's back is huge. I'm super excited about that. I'm so pumped. Now, obviously, there's nothing concrete or stated or released that he's going to be, quote unquote, a new icon. But we have said in the past that most icons are given control of an event, or not control, but at least
taken over. Like, it says he has taken over this year's event. That's
over the event. That's usually indicative of a new icon. So chances are, pun intended, that he will be the new Universal Orlando Howling Horror Nights icon. Excuse me. So I'm super excited for that. I'm so pumped. Do you know have we looked and see like this is not the same for Hollywood. Like this is just Orlando scare.
No, yeah, this is all Orlando.
Right. So, I mean, a lot of the houses may be the same, but I think it's that we're the only we get Pumpkin Lord. So that is kind of, I don't know, I feel kind of special about that because this is our event. You know, this is our hometown event. Obviously, LA is on the other side of the country. They have their own stuff. So I'm super pumped and happy for Pumpkin Lord to actually get this opportunity. I really think he is a great character. They're going to do awesome things with him this year. So I'm excited. So I just spent the last 5 to 10 minutes gloating and then also, groveling at the feet of the Pumpkin Lord. But, who can blame me?
No, I'm in on it. All right. Next up, another winner of a scare zone, Scarecrow Cursed Soil. Yeah. At an abandoned farm, scarecrows have risen from the crust of the earth to hunt you and seek revenge. They'll harvest your screams. So again, this is a sequel to the House 27, I think, Scarecrow the Reaping.
Which is kind of where they got the idea from for Pumpkin Lord. So like he kind of pulls from this lore.
Yeah, a little bit. It seemed like, because they had like Nathaniel Crow who was in their house. But I think it's just gonna be fun. So what I did hear and sort of see is that they are building like a big farm set, and you're going to you have to walk through that as well. So it's like a mini house inside a scare zone.
That's cool.
So interesting there.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
It's cool. It's like a little extra mini house that you don't have to necessarily wait for. So I'm excited to see some of these same characters back from the previous house. The house was a banger. People call it one of the scariest houses of all time. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
The best house they've ever done. So I'm excited. A little bummed that it's not the sequel couldn't have been its own house too, but I'm totally gonna take the scares. And I think to kind of go off a little bit off the rails again, I think that they're after what happened in 2020 and what they couldn't do last year. I think they felt coming into this year that we really need to pull out all the stops for everything. Like we need to give them amazing houses, but at the same time, we need to really go all out with our scare zones this time. Because I feel like, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit. And obviously, we talked with other people that whether we work for the event or go to the event, and they all kind of agree that last year the scare zones, at least somewhat, felt a little weak compared to what they've been in the past. And I think it's partially because they kind of had to throw ideas together and they had less time to really kind of plan the event coming out of COVID. So I think this year, if that's true, like if they're building like a mini maze in a scare zone, I think they're going like completely. They're gonna do everything they can to make this one of the best events of all time.
Yeah, I think so too. Next up is Sweet Revenge. The sweets from Major Sweets Candy Company have turned children into crazed killers. This Halloween's all trick, no treat, and total mayhem.
What's better than
so? The props of this one have been popping out a lot. So we've seen a lot of that. We've seen the little top hat guy with the little boo candy pumpkin on his hat. He's got that crazy straight villainous mustache. Yeah, this one is exciting. This one looks really fun. It looks like there's gonna be a lot of props to this one. I'm very curious to see all these like weird candy children. I'm hoping that character, that like top hat guy, is like an actual character in the zone who's like does like not necessarily a show, but is prominent and out and about or on a stage, kind of doing a little bit every 30 minutes or so.
Can I just say how many opportunities they have for just some amazing merch? Like I'm gonna spend so much money this year. Like if they do like a Major Sweets T-shirt like for the company, and he's on it with Little Boo on there, like they're gonna make so much money at this event.
Oh, I need it. I'm
gonna need all of these all of these merch, all these T-shirts. I'm gonna end up with like another 15 black T-shirts.
Yeah, I want like an employee shirt from him. Like a button-down bowler shirt, like old school Dairy Queen.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
I'd dive on that. Next up, Graveyard Deadly Unrest. On All Hallows Eve, a dark storm descends upon a cemetery and awakens long dead spirits. No one living can escape them. So this is the one that's being set up as that Nettlewood Cemetery. We've seen the props kind of coming up overnight in that area. It looks really cool, very, very creepy. And again, it's Graveyard. I'm very curious to see what the full story entails on this, but it seems like a very basic layout, which sets it up for success.
Yeah, I mean, it probably could end up being like zombies and that sort of thing again. But I mean, if they do it unique enough, then I'm fine. Plus, it's a scare zone. It's, it's not usually, for me, it's not as like, oh, zombies. At least it's outside. It's a scare zone. There's, there's things you can kind of like do with them to make it a little bit more unique than just zombies. But it'll be interesting. It's actually different than what I expected, because like the pictures that I saw were obviously of like the mausoleums and stuff like that, so I thought it was going to be more like vampire-ish, but I was wrong. It's gonna be just straight up graveyard, so I'm excited. It should be pretty cool.
And then lastly, for our final scare zone, Conjure the Dark. On the first All Hallows Eve, an evil sorceress called forth monstrosities from dark dimensions. Now your blood will fuel them. So again, sort of a vague thing. This is going to be going into that San Francisco area. It looks like they set up some cauldrons. It looks very sacrificially. It looks like there'll be a little show aspect of it with, the old school sorcerers. And so it's not as much witchy. It's, sorcerers. So they try to differentiate like the magic versus, witch spells.
This could be
whatever.
If they do kind of like, medieval theming, like a little bit like, stuff like that, rather than just more current day sorcery. Like we're talking like medieval type of stuff, like usually like sorcerers and sorceresses from like the early 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th century type stuff. That would be kind of cool.
So now on to the two shows. The first, I'm ecstatic that it's coming back. That is going to be Halloween Nightmare Fuel Wildfire. The show that sparked a firestorm last year is ablaze with a new nightmare. The pyro and aerial performers are back to reignite your fears. Now, I remember last year on our like ultimate hype list, this was like at the bottom. I was like, this is Halloween Nightmare Fuel. Sounds like a Monster Energy drink. This is like, I just don't. It was just so basic and vague, and they took all the various terms of like Halloween, just threw crap in there. But I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think we both kind of agreed that we weren't super hyped about it. We weren't super hyped about it, but turned out that we were both way wrong, and that's great. I'm glad we were wrong. I like being wrong. I mean, the name definitely doesn't do it any justice, especially if you don't know what you're going into. Like you said, like Halloween Nightmare Fuel, it sounds like a bad Metallica song. So like it definitely like doesn't do it a ton of favors, but I'm telling you, and you're telling everybody as well, that like don't let that stop you. Like this, it was such a good show last year. Seems like this year it's going to be a little different. Like they're going to retheme it a little bit differently, but it's going to be the same type of probably like acrobatic type stuff. There's going to be fire. There's definitely going to be fire involved in this one, and
lots of fire,
lots of cool music too.
So sit in the front row on those 90-degree nights. It gets pretty fucking tasty.
I believe it.
And then lastly, Ghoulish, a Halloween tale. On a Halloween night, a ghost story becomes reality as you go beyond the grave in a spectacularly spooky show on Universal Studios Lagoon. So it's fun. It's interesting. They changed it. It's not called Marathon of Mayhem. It has its own title, but essentially I'm viewing it as the same show. It seems like it's not going to be like the last years. It felt like it took the IPs and just kind of threw the projector up there and was like, oh, here's a Leatherface with a couple chainsaw 3D things going on at you. But this seems like it's going to actually be a story. So I'll be interested to check it out. It looks very classic Halloween-y. This is the overarching theme, whether they've said it or not. But I'm interested. I'll give it a shot. I'm obviously going to give everything a shot, but I'm just happy that it doesn't seem to be a here, look at pictures of all the IPs we have for you this year.
Yeah, I mean, definitely last year it felt like, really wasn't interested enough to like warrant making sure we got over there to pick out a good spot and watch it, because it really wasn't that. At least, I mean, it was well done, well put together, but I just don't think it was very interesting. It didn't really hold my interest for very long. So I'd see it once, but I'm not going to bother trying to see it multiple times. This one at least seems like they're going to kind of do something original with it, come up with some of their own story and base that kind of around classic Halloween, which is cool. I like the title, the ghoulish.
Yeah.
I like how it looks kind of like goosebumpy, drippiness. Just it seems like it's very themes around 50s, 60s Halloween, 70s Halloween, like just nothing super over the top, not going to take itself too seriously. And they usually are pretty good at roping in good sound effects and music and stuff with these as well. I'm not a huge Lagoon Show fan anyways, because there's not a lot of good places to see it. Like, you really do have to kind of get over to that area, wait 20 minutes, 30 minutes, probably even 45 minutes before the show starts to get a really good spot. Because if you can't see everything, it's really hard to stay interested in it, I guess, is my point. It just, plus there's nowhere really to sit. It's a full standing show, so you're gonna stand there for 25-30 minutes while this thing plays. And again, I'm not gonna bad dog this until I see it, but again, that's something that I usually take into account before I plan on doing it. I want to make sure that I'm there to get a decent spot to watch it. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this happens. I mean, again, very vague right now, not really sure what's going on with it, what it's going to be, but as long as it's not just like clips of movies with music, I'm happy.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into now that we kind of covered the event and what they announced. We're going to leave like the deep discussions on it for our next batch of episodes. So before we announce our episodes, let's get into our little contest that we were running. So we were running through, we were asking for some Apple Podcast reviews. So if you still want to enter, or well, not enter, but if you want to leave us some reviews, what we're going to actually start doing is reading we're going to start reading the reviews. So if we get a new one, we'll read it and comment on it, but we'll go through those quickly.
As long as we read good and bad. So if we get any bad reviews, I want to read those ones too.
Oh, if it's bad, they're being read probably and emphasized more. So let's just go through these. And then at the end, I'll have you give me a number and I'll announce who won that one. So this was called Awesome Show, 5 stars. So this show does a great job covering my favorite event, HHN. I listen every week and love getting my HHN fix from Fear and Beer. So thank you for listening along with us. Next up, in person and on show. So somebody we got to actually meet. So met you guys at Spooky Empire this year and so excited we did, as are we. We love listening to you and had a blast talking at the convention. Stay spooky, with a cute little Dracula guy. Spooky was a really fun time. We got to meet a lot of people. It was just fun kind of chatting with people because it's tough to sell like nothing, which is essentially what we were doing. So just kind of dragging people in with the, hey, do you like horror nights? And then just chit chatting. It filled the days up and made it go by quick. And we got some people to listen.
It's a fun event. We go to that every year anyways, as spectators, as well as, to try to sell ourselves. So we just like being there in general. But yeah, it was cool to talk to people. Glad we got to meet bunch of fans, make some new fans hopefully, and hopefully grow our audience even bigger from that.
Oh yeah. Next up, it just says amazing. Covers everything you want to hear and more. These guys are great. Stay spooky. We will. And thank you. Great listen. Super fun, easy listen. It's like hanging out. That's what we try to be. We try to make it very loose, very fluid. We used to be very stiff with our breakdowns and have very almost scripted out episodes, and that was a good way to get our feet wet. But then once we became comfortable just kind of dragging on conversation, we figured a way to just wing it.
Well, I mean, that's definitely like, for me, one of the biggest things of why I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I mean, unless it's like historic, like history type podcast, or like there's just certain ones that I have a hard time listening to because they sound scripted. So I'd rather listen to ones like HHN365 or RIP, or one, obviously friends of ours, but like those types of podcasts, because it just feels like a bunch of friends getting together and talking about stuff that they like. So that's what I really wanted this to be. Like if we were going to do this, I wanted it to be, free flowing, have a main topic to discuss what we're going to talk about, but at the same time, don't script it to the point where it sounds like we're just reading off a piece of paper. Like I wanted to really kind of be a discussion. So we go into these without any real plan or any real structure or rubric as to what go by. We just kind of say, this is what we're talking about tonight, go. So that's what I like about it. So yeah, it's cool. So thank you for the shout out. That's nice.
We have best of both worlds. I love me some HHN and some beer. Kudos. Yes, we do. I'm glad you do too. They know both. I love deep knowledge of all things HHN. Keep it up. We will do our best.
Yeah. I mean, I try to do my best, but
great podcast. Love the HHN updates, and the beer is a bonus. Cheers. Well, cheers back to you while I'm polishing off my Don't Poke the Bear beer. And then great podcast again. Love this podcast. Love the HHN content, the beer reviews, and the movie reviews. Hey, some killer review love. I'm glad people like those ones.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite. Those are the fun ones. I really enjoy those ones because I get to actually deep dive into something, and I get to learn a lot of stuff myself when I'm researching those movies. The hosts seem like very down-to-earth, nice people. I hope to see you in the fog this year. Well, we will be there a lot. So if you do want to see us in the fog, contact us. Let us know. We'll probably be there. If you see us there, if you see us posting, if you run into us, say hi. Let's grab a beer. So those are all the reviews that we got recently. So like I said, if you want us to read your review, leave us one. Leave us an Apple Podcasts, preferably 5-star, but if not, we'll still read it regardless. But it's just a great way for us to kind of interact with fans in a different version. So if you want, Seamus, can you give me a number 1 through 7?
1 to 7?
Yeah, give me a random number.
Do a random number generator real quick. So I'm generating minimum 1, maximum 7. Generate. We have 6.
6. All right, Mommy McKenna. So that was the review name on Apple Podcasts, and that was the review that they met us at Spooky. So we will do my best to contact you. So if you are listening, feel free to message us. I will try to track you down through one of our socials. I'm not sure.
On social media and just say, whoever left us this review, reach out to us because you won.
So I'll mail you some stuff out.
You'll listen to this episode. So congratulations. Again, hope to see you at the event, and congrats.
Yes. All right. So let's get into the big stuff. The reason why we've been so tired. The reason why we've been recording so much. So my brilliant idea of doing an episode a day for the final week of HHN. We are going to be dropping, like we said earlier, episodes every single day. So starting on Friday, August 26th, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little beginner's guide to HHN. So just some little tricks and tips that we like to do that might make your visit go a little bit smoother. Maybe you haven't really been to the event that much. Maybe this is your first time going. We're going to do our best to try and at least bring you into what we do or different aspects of the event that can help you get through it smoother. That Saturday, the next day, Saturday, August 27th, we are putting out a killer review on Halloween 1978. We recorded with my buddy Diaz, big Michael Myers fan, so that's a fun episode. On Sunday, we are putting out, or Sunday, August 28th, we did a fantasy draft. So we drafted another speculation map. Me, Seamus, and then friends of the podcast, Sam and Jimmy, who just moved to Massachusetts today. So that was his last episode for us. He went home. So last time you're going to hear Jimmy on the podcast, potentially. And my girlfriend Jamie joined us as well. So full cast and crew for that one. Monday, August 29th, we're going to be releasing a HHN31 Hot Takes episode. We have a list of some potential hot takes people might have, and we will ourselves vote if we agree or disagree with that hot take. Tuesday, August 30th, we are going to be doing a wait times over underestimation episode. We did that briefly last year, and we kind of had some fun with it. So we'll set certain numbers for certain houses, and we'll determine if we think it's going to be over or under. It'll be fun to revisit after the event and see what the main consensus was on that. This one is contingent upon this being released. But Wednesday, August 31st, we are going to be doing our hype list for food and drinks. So I'm hoping for all of that stuff to come out shortly so we can start gathering our information on that. Thursday, September 1st, we will put out our hype list for scare zones in shows. And then you guessed it, on Friday, September 2nd, for our 100th episode, we're going to do our hype list for our houses. And we are going to do our best to get some friends and some other people onto this episode as well. It is a little tough to track down people just because the way we're recording this is very scrambled and all over the place, but we're going to try and get some local friends with us to jump on to the episode and make it a fun one. So that's our full lineup. We'll be posting this lineup probably whenever this episode drops or the day after, so people can kind of have time to listen to it and get through it and get to this part. But I'm excited. We have some fun episodes. They obviously vary between HHN info, speculation, fantasy drafts, movie reviews. We got like a little bit of everything that we do at Fear and Beer into this week. It's taken a lot of work, a lot of effort, and I really hope you guys enjoy it, because I know I'm always looking for stuff to kind of entertain myself and make the week go by a lot quicker, because it's just, man, that the day just never seems to come when you're counting down. But hopefully putting out content for you every day is something that you can enjoy. Some episodes are going to be a little bit longer, some are going to be shorter, so hopefully we're still you have enough time to actually consume it within that week.
Yep.
But I think that's all we got for this one. Any other final thoughts?
Nope, I'm excited. We definitely aren't recording these in the order that you're listening to them. So yeah, like you said, It's been pretty crazy. But we're excited to get some guests on, do something different a little bit this year than we did last year, especially since we're kind of like getting better at this whole podcasting thing. So we're starting to come up with more unique ideas. So I'm excited. Can't wait to get these houses, get to see them up close. Want to get this thing rolling. Can't wait to be in the fog. Just the whole shebang and bang. I'm excited. So let's go.
And we're two weeks out at this point. Close, very close. All right. Well, until next time, which will be the kickstart of our 1 week to HHN podcast marathon. This is Nick.
And this is the Pumpkin Lord, Seamus.
Happy sweet haunts.
It's cursed. It's got a death curse.
It's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare.
And again, I would just like to thank Vampire Stepdad for letting us use his music for our intro and outro music. So if you would, just go check him out. Spotify, Facebook. Again, that is Vampire Stepdad.